Yeah, so I'm Charlotte.
And I am Lorna.
And we are co-founders and co-directors of Lights, Camera, Action Productions.
Yes.
Or LCA for short,
Yeah.
whatever you prefer. And we are a female-led production company based in Liverpool.
Yeah. We kind of write and direct and produce our own content, our own short films, which is something that we're really passionate about. And we're like influenced by typically like art house film styles. And then we have like different influences for different elements of film. So like cinematography, we're really inspired by particularly Barry Lyndon,
Yes.
Stanley Kubrick, which we hope people can see within Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
But the motto of LCA has kind of always been, we want to make films about women, by women, but for everyone to enjoy.
Gorgeous. I guess following on from that, something I'm always really interested in with organisations that have such socially engaged production. Your reasons for making, as you said, are making content for everyone to enjoy, but with that specific focus on female-led production narrative. And I'd be really interested to know what kind of led you to feel the need to form your own female-led production company.
Yeah, so Lorna and I met at university, and we studied the same course. We both studied filmmaking. And funnily enough, we actually formed at Melodic Distraction. Yeah. We went to the pub and we had a conversation and we decided to create a production company. And even funnier is that Lorna and I, because we didn't know each other that well.
No, that was the first time we met, was at Melodic Distraction.
Yeah. And we went on an outing together to a Where the Girlbands gig in Bloom Building. And it was when Poppy Shrimpton was performing. So that was like a couple of years ago.
But that was the first time that we ever we hung out like one-to-one and got to know each other, which was like at your event. So
yeah,
wouldn't have happened without you.
Yeah, and we properly bonded that night, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we realized how much we had in common creatively.
Yeah.
Like what stories we wanted to tell, what themes we were interested in. So that's how LCA originated.
And we were originally planning to be client-based. So and we had this idea that we were going to be like a service that was accessible to students within the Liverpool area. So we did a lot of like gig photography, some showreel content, some photography for like different artists within the area. But one exciting thing that we did do while we did do client work was we worked with Sassoon in Manchester, and we filmed their like hairstylist.
Yeah, he was
they were having like a show.
Yeah. It was for his promotion. He had a show which was really exciting and fun to do, and we recorded that. And then Lorna also photographed the models as well.
But then we realized, we first tried to make client work. The idea was that we would make money and then put money back into making film work, but we quickly realized that we weren't making any money.
Yes.
So we were like, let's just cut the middleman. And we decided to then focus on being solely like a film production company.
Yeah, and it was definitely useful for us to do the client work because we met so many amazing people, and especially musicians. Like one that comes to mind is definitely like Anna Koon's Torturing the Desert Spiders. We met by doing gig photography, and we've worked with her since. But yeah, we then made a film together called Little Riots, and after that we realized, okay, like this is what we want to focus on, and we thought we'll actually be able to offer more opportunities to creatives if we build our company up into like a filmmaking company rather than doing client work.
So we kind of then decided to become like a registered company, and then we have since made, in a space of a year, because we've only really now become focused on making films. We've made 3 short films together, Little Riots, Bringing Up the Brontes, and now Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. And we've had this conversation that we've decided to take the more difficult route in entering the film industry, rather than going and applying to work on other people's sets and make their stories happen with like crew roles. We've decided to take the more longer, difficult route in focusing on making our own content and putting that out there to audiences and try and grow as artists that way.
We kind of refuse to do running work, which people might say is stupid. We stick with the hospitality jobs and the retail jobs because we want to really focus on LCA and the work that we want to create. We do believe that we've got a voice and stories to tell, and like our view on what we want to do in the industry is one that we're passionate about.
It's something which I find really, really encouraging and interesting, is that methodology that you hold so strongly of making films about women, but also the focus on having them made by women, and that going across all the different roles that are involved within filmmaking. It's something that we're really passionate about from a music industry stance as well, is like you say, often there are like compromises that you face within industry settings where even if you go into a space and have an intention to have a specific voice or a message, that doesn't necessarily translate to the full environment, and you do face these kind of walls. Even if, say, in music you have an event that is spotlighting women musicians, often there's a serious lack of representation behind the scenes, with production, sound engineers, all of these different things, and that creates a lack of safety for the women then who are put on the stage, and really compromises their voice and the story that's able to be told through that event. And so, I'd be really interested to hear from your perspective within the film industry why it's so important to hold not only focus on the screen, but also behind the screen within those production roles.
So we, like slightly different industries, music industry and film industry, but it's the exact same, isn't it? And ever since we started getting into the industry, from university, we were always taught by male lecturers. Still to this day, even though I'm doing my master's, I've never had a female film teacher, which, is something that would be nice.
Lack of representation.
Like even in something like teaching. But, we've had run-ins even in university with our work when we do create these female protagonists and female stories and queer stories as well, that these men who are marking our work they didn't get it, and they thought it was wrong because it's something different to like your Christopher Nolan films.
And they're trying like change our narrative or like influence our work, because there was kind of like a scare tactic that we didn't understand the industry and we didn't understand how it worked, but we were very passionate in sticking to like what we wanted to create, and that's something that I'm really proud that we've always done. So there were times that like on an educational level, like our work wasn't well received or well marked, but we decided pretty much early on that we were going to make work and make content that would reflect us in our portfolios, instead of like focusing on getting like a good grade or something. But saying that, we did actually graduate with really good grades anyway, so it's like we stayed true to who we were as artists, and it worked out in the long run.
It paid off. But we definitely want to create the change that we want to see. Like we go to watch films all the time and we see the lack of representation, and one of our pet peeves is poorly written female characters, especially. And like just giving women the voices to tell their own stories, and giving queer people the voices to tell their own stories is like incredibly important to us. Like if it's a female story, why not have female crew and like female writers? Like why not make it female?
Authentic,
so that like female actors can portray a role that they're proud of and that they can connect to, and also that audiences can view and be like, yeah, I feel seen, and
yeah,
I feel
can relate to and
represented.
Because we've been talking about this recently. Something that we found interesting was with the release of Barbie, how male audiences couldn't identify with the male characters and were disappointed in how they were represented. And it was like, well, this is how we feel in, like, you know, every other film. Especially growing up, there was no characters that really represented like who I wanted to be, or the women around me, the women that brought me up. So we find that interesting, because it's like, that's the change that we're trying to create for, you know, the female demographic and the female audiences. And so we're hopeful that is like, can be seen within our work.
And we can feel the change happening as well. Like, there's definitely been a shift in the film industry that we've seen. People who've been in the industry for longer, and in like that older generation of being in the industry, again, it's like that scare factor. And they describe it that, you know, there's no women in it. You know, it's racist, it's sexist, it's homophobic, but it's quite negative, and it almost makes you scared to go in.
It's like they excuse the toxic behavior.
It's like, oh, this is just how it is, but it's not how it should be. And we've definitely noticed, like, this new generation of filmmakers, we want to make a change, and it is changing, which is exciting. Like, we can see it.
And I think something which is really amazing about your approach that you've described is that you're really holding space for other people by taking that leap of becoming your own organisation, rather than just taking your individual voices into other spaces, and, you know, making that room for actors, for writers, for other creatives to come on board and have that initial welcome into the industry in a space that's designed to be inclusive and safe and really made custom for their experiences, rather than having to, like, you know, squeeze in, you know, like round peg into a square hole sort of situation. I know you mentioned at the start, like, your original ethos was to be an accessible service for local people, and I guess that kind of ethos has translated, maybe holds the same message and the same intention, but through a slightly different outcome, in that, you know, you've spoken about wanting to create opportunities to cultivate the richness of local scenes and a local creative force. And I'd also be interested maybe in talking a little bit about that, about your interest in creating opportunities and having local voice within your productions.
So Lorna and I are both from working class backgrounds. So it's always been incredibly important to us to represent the working class. And then obviously we went to university in Liverpool, which is a very proud working class city. And it's again like that awareness of the industry and how people portray it to be. That it's, you know, you have to move to London to make it in the film industry. Which just isn't true, and London is incredibly inaccessible to a lot of people, and it's very expensive, and those kinds of stories as well tend to be just like one side of the coin in representing people. And Liverpool has so much to give in terms of talent and creatives and stories, and we just want to be a part of that.
Because we're both from small towns. So I'm from Shrewsbury in the West Midlands, and obviously Charlotte's from Bangor in Northern Ireland. And coming from small towns, there's very limited opportunities to create or be a creative. So, you know, it's a reason why we both ended up moving to Liverpool to study here, because Liverpool is so diverse, it's so rich in culture, and it has such, you know, a profound history of artists. It's like giving birth to the Beatles, which is the biggest band ever, and that's definitely something that's very true, and it's something that isn't represented very well in media. Like, mainstream media doesn't favor Liverpool in the best light, and it's not an accurate representation of the people here or the working class mentality or mindset. And that's something that we're very passionate about creating and representing, like authentically. like our next film, which we are in pre-production for at the moment, called He Only Thinks of Me on Sundays, is entirely set in Liverpool. It's going to be entirely filmed in Liverpool, casted in Liverpool, cast and crew, loads of Liverpool references. And it's a little bit of a love letter to Liverpool in a way.
Yeah.
Because we love it here. And again, it will create opportunities for local working class creatives to come on board on the project to make it with us.
Yeah. We always film in Liverpool, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
We made a film set in Belfast and we filmed it in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Oh, so honestly, it's so exciting, and I think there's nothing that fills me with more, I guess, just like a sense of fulfillment than that understanding of really presenting and representing Liverpool authentically, because like you say, it's a constant uphill battle with perceptions around Liverpool, and even entering the workforce, it's something which creatives have to deal with, the baggage of their accent and the things that it's associated with. I think your intention of bringing local people on board to, in a way, tell the story of the city, and in that same sense, the story of themselves and that baggage that they will carry with them through their lives professionally and personally. It's just gorgeous, and, I want to say thank you personally for doing that, because it's something which, is so needed, unbelievably needed. And like you say, Liverpool does just have so much to give, and it's why, as the organisation ourselves, there's just so much constantly to share and to platform. It's constantly evolving as a place, with people coming into Liverpool, people from Liverpool. The history is, like you say, so rich and almost untapped in the way that they're represented. I thank you from me personally for the work that you're doing.
Literally.
And you've brought me on very naturally, actually, to my next question, which is about the work that you do and the content that you create. I feel like we've spoken a lot about the intentions and the practice behind what you do, but I'd love to hear what each of your favourite productions are that you've worked on so far.
Yeah, so we both have different favourite ones, don't we?
Yeah.
So my favourite one is our first short film called Little Riots. And like I said, it's set in Belfast, but we ended up filming it in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And we filmed it over the course of a single day.
Yeah.
We wrote it very quickly with two actors who had never met before, Erin Rose Martin and Roisin Brown, but they were incredible. And we simultaneously hosted an event at the same time to create this atmosphere. And it's about two young girls inspired by Lorna and I, actually, who are broke students. They've got £2.50 in their bank accounts, but they vow to have the greatest night of their lives at a punk poetry party. And it was made as part of the Make Film History project for the BBC Centennial, which basically encouraged filmmakers to incorporate archive footage into their films. And the film that we chose was the Belfast punk scene in the 1980s, which was also during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. But there was this punk scene that was going on that was huge, and it kind of helped people, was like a healthy distraction for people during that time. But the film is basically to show like how far Belfast has come as a city, but also to show like how the hearts of people in Belfast has remained the same. Like there's such a community there. But yeah, that's my favorite film. Yeah. And it's also very recently been accepted into Belfast Film Festival, which is a BAFTA qualifying festival.
And then I would say I'm proud of all our films, but I would say my favourite film would be our new short film, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. We're both Bronte fans. Like before we met, like we've read work of them separately. But I actually got gifted Wuthering Heights, the book, one Christmas by my aunt, and she was like, "This book will change your life." And I didn't actually understand what that understood what that meant at the moment. And then she was like, you need to reread the book every 5 years, because as you grow as a person, you will take different elements from the narrative and it will mean different things, and like the book changes each time you read it. And I remember the first time I read it, I was like really disappointed in the book. Like I found it a really like struggling read, because all the characters are just miserable and horrific, and their situations are horrific, and the locations are horrible, and you know that they're very unlikable characters. And I was led to believe by like previous media work and film work that it was about this perfect love story, and then reading it, I quickly realized, I was like, that isn't a true representation of the book. So I actually explained the book to Charlotte one day when we were together, and I gifted her my book, and I was like, read it and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
And
I was obsessed. I was like, I need to read this book.
And it like, I was like, this book will change your life. Like you will not be the same after. And like, we've both felt that. So we were actually in Spoons one day, and we decided like, we're going to tell the true story. So we got working on like a short script. It's like a short film / concept piece, because our goal is to make that into a feature, which will happen. So it was we have this theory that we are now being haunted by Emily Bronte, and that she has cursed the production, because we filmed it in a total of 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
With a budget of £100, which doesn't go far. But the night before the first day of filming, I actually became very sick, and there was a small group of us in A&E. I was like having effects of being poisoned. So I missed the first day of filming, and Charlotte took control, thankfully. And then on the second day of filming, which was our exterior scenes, we had like torrential weather. It started off that like the actors were getting like heat stroke and sunburn, and people weren't feeling well, and then the weather just drastically changed to torrential downpour, and everyone was like soaked to their pants. Like it was horrible. And if the equipment broke, no it didn't. But like, we're really proud of the work that we've been able to create, and we've collaborated with like local creatives. So our soundtrack has been composed by a local composer, Matthew Dickman, and he's done like amazing work for it. Like it just fits it perfectly. And then as well, like we've had like local actors that worked with us that played the characters, and it's just
so good in it, weren't they?
Yeah, like, and so we're just like so proud of how it looks together, and we feel like it really represents the work that like we want to tell and what we want to create. And yeah, so we've released some like behind the scenes content, some like reels on social media, and we do have a trailer available on YouTube if anyone would like to go and see it.
I guess my last question from you is, leading on from all of this incredible work that you've done so far, things that we can look forward to from you in the future.
Well, we are currently in pre-production for our next short film called He Only Thinks of Me on Sundays. And the film is it's a female narrative again, and it kind of explores the toxicity of like the modern dating culture and like the effects that it can have on like young people. And I would say it's semi-autobiographical, but there is elements of fiction. It is very like exaggerated version of reality, and the story is of two female friends that seek revenge on the men who have wronged them. And it's a dark comedy that like pokes fun at like the stereotypes that are often like portrayed on women when they've been like hurt or wronged, when they are like described as like crazy or psycho. But it is a comedy, which is like we've had elements of that before in our work with like Little Riots.
Yeah, it's, you know, that drama comedy, you know, like very Fleabag-esque. It's so dark, but it's funny at moments, and it just helps lift the story a little bit more. And then like with this project, we've done some like street interviews where we've like interviewed people like in Liverpool, where we've like asked them about their dating stories, or if they've ever like sought revenge on an ex. And we've had some interesting stories have been shared with us, and not all of them could we share. But
they can be found on our social medias. And we've actually created like a crowdfunding platform to like help us in the production of making the film. And then we've also like created and released some like promotional material for it. So one of our good friends, Alex Quinn, who's a Liverpool creative, he created 2 options of the poster, and then it was like our followers and our who follows our work selected. They had a vote on which one they would prefer. So we're trying to involve us like the Liverpool scene as much as possible in like every step of the production. And you know, the plan is to film it entirely in Liverpool with Liverpool creatives and Liverpool cast, and with references to Liverpool within the narrative. So yeah, we're really excited about that project.
Amazing. And so obviously my last final question is what your social medias are and how people can keep up to date with all of this news.
Well, we have our Instagram and Twitter
and TikTok
have the same handle, which is at LCA_prod. And then we have an additional TikTok entirely for the street interviews, which is at LCA_extra. So yeah, if people wanted to keep in touch, and
if you want to do a street interview as well, talk about your ex.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking your time and talking with us today.